There we go. Hey guys.
Here we are. We're getting ready to jump on board the Ghosts and Gravestones Ghost Tour.
Ooh, do you dare board the Trolley of the Doomed?
I think we dare.
Yes.
I think we dare.
We dare. And they're voted the best ghost tour for how many years there? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, like a bunch of years. So we will let you know.
10, 11, 12. What happened in 2013?
I don't know. And then
15, 16,
what about
what happened
last
in
year?
2017?
That's right, 2018 is a new year. So, you know.
New year.
But we've had a good time so far. We've been doing there's 2 different trolleys here in town. So, here, I can talk to the people really quick. It's like the worst lighting ever, but there's 2 trolley companies here. There's like a train one, and we did the old trolley tours, which is the green and orange ones. I think they're the biggest and the largest, and I think they have the best deals. They can lump up all these packages together, so you could do like 2-3 day trolley tours, and that's the best way to do St. Augustine. Just take the trolley, you can get on and off, and you can pick and choose which tours you want to do. You don't have to do them all. It's deceptive because things take time. Like the fort takes time, the Fountain of Youth takes time, museums take time.
Yeah, don't try to squeeze everything into one day. You won't make it.
And everything closes like at 5. So 6. So you pretty much have from 10 o'clock to 5 p.m. to do what you need to do, so don't plan too many things for one day. You could do the tour at night, because this is our 8:20 tour, but we had dinner before this, but most all the museums and things close at like 6 o'clock, so try to do maybe 2 or 3 things per day and just space it all out. So. Oh no, we're getting on the Trolley of the Doomed here for our... We'll drive you to an early grave. Oh boy, that's scary. Or do you want to go? Do you want to go here or the bigger window? I mean, I don't know how much I can see on here, because the windows are not, well, I think I'll be fuzzier with the plastic too.
The Trolley of the Doom.
Ooh, yay!
My name is Debbie, and I'll be your driver tonight. And for your safety, please remain seated. Keep all body parts inside the trolley. No smoking or alcoholic beverages. Hey, I'll keep your alcohol up there if it's cold. And in consideration of our ghost host and others around you, please turn your cell phones off or put them on vibrate.
Yes.
But do take pictures as we go along tonight with your flash on. And let's give our ghost host a big welcome, Brian.
Go, Brian.
Hey, Brian. Good evening, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome aboard Ghosts and Gravestones. There are 2 stops on this tour. First, we will be going to Potter's Wax Museum and the oldest drugstore. But both of those places sit on top of an active paranormal hotspot. A little bit more about that once we get in there.
Okay.
Then we will be going inside the most haunted building in St. Augustine, the old jail. Along the way, I'm going to tell you guys some stories,
Yay.
Both about the earthly history of our town and about some of the unearthly activity that's been reported within it. Do keep in mind that while some details have been changed to protect folks' privacy, because a lot of these families do still live with us, that the whole time the history and experiences have all been preserved. Also keep in mind that as we roll through our wonderful college town on this Friday night, we might come across some locals that have been in contact with a slightly different variety of spirit. Very smart locals who might have words of wit and wisdom for us, like, I don't know, boo. I'm not going to let them make fun of y'all. So here's how we're going to do this. I will point them out and I will shout unbeliever. You can follow that up with a spirited cry of be doomed.
Be doomed.
You got it?
Got it.
You want to try it?
Sure.
This is a problem with the cold night. Here we are. Nice gentleman walking his little puppy dad.
Aww.
Hey, let's be doing with puppy. Unbeliever!
Be doomed!
It's a yapper anyway. Speaking of doom, in 1821, a supply ship sailed into our harbor. Now, supply ships are normally good things, right?
Right.
Normally. But this one was different. You see, she pulled into the port and just stopped. Didn't come into the dock. Just sort of floated about. So curious, townsfolk rode out to her. And when they got aboard, they realized everyone on the ship was dead. Knowing what must have caused it, they hopped back in after lighting a fire and flew back to shore, but the damage was done, ladies and gentlemen. Yellow fever came to St. Augustine. The Huguenot cemetery to your right was born of the desperate need to bury all of the bodies. At its peak, it killed more than a dozen people every single day. If you got infected on Monday, you were dead by Wednesday. It was truly terrifying. By 1827, the fence around that cemetery was ripped out so they could bury people on the outlying grounds. They say that it killed so quickly that a lot of its victims don't even know they're dead. You can see their spirits walking around downtown, going about their daily routine like nothing even happened. One of them, sometimes with the city gates here, you'll be driving in, city gates to your left, excuse me. You'll be driving into town sometimes, and in the daytime you'll see the gates, and you'll see like a little girl, historic costume, waving at you. Yeah, that's not a reenactress. We don't have a reenactress. That is actually the ghost of Elizabeth. Elizabeth was the gatekeeper's daughter at the time of the yellow fever epidemic, and Elizabeth loved to go to work with her daddy. She liked to say hi to all of the amazing people that were coming from faraway places to what was America's newest boomtown. Unfortunately, that also meant that she had the perfect front row seat to say goodbye to all of those dead bodies as they rolled right past her face and into the cemetery. Excuse me. Now, should you be between those gates and feel an unexpected cold breeze, don't panic. Just say hi to Elizabeth for me.
Okay.
Speaking of specters, we all brought cameras, right?
Right. Yes. We're ready.
We're going to take a lot of pictures throughout the entire tour, right?
Right. Video.
Okay, so what are we looking for?
Orbs.
Ghosts? Orbs? Yeah. What do ghosts look like?
Orbs.
Yeah. Feel free to interrupt me because that's really my role here. I mean, people come from all over the world just to spend a few hours on these properties taking pictures. And lucky y'all, you're on a guided tour. Take all the pictures you want for your own curiosity and collection. We're going to be off the trolley for about half an hour.
Okay.
You can leave your personal effects here if you'd like. With the prisoner. Otherwise, do watch your head, watch your step, and follow me, ladies and gentlemen.
Ooh, okay. We are at the Potter's Museum. Mm-hmm.
That's perfect as well.
I got video. We're live.
I was going to say, you've got quite the rig there.
Yes. It's the only way to go. Okay. We are in the, was it Potter's Museum? Is this where we are? It's a cemetery. Well, we'll try to do some photos as well, not just video, but kind of give you the little scope here of the cemetery, and then we'll try to take some photos. Why don't you take photos and I take video? How about that, honey? You get the super duper camera there. See if you find any orbses or apparitions.
So, welcome to the lovely Tolomato Cemetery. Should keep a good grip on your cameras and phones. If anything goes over that fence, we can't go in after it. We got to call the church and they send somebody out tomorrow. It's no fun. That being said, you're getting an up close and personal view of more than a century of life and death in our little town here. From 1773 all the way up to 1884, this was the Spanish Catholic burial ground for all of St. Augustine. But like a lot of things in town, it was something else before that. Does anybody actually know what Talamato means in Spanish? Anybody? No? Of course you don't. It's not Spanish at all. It's a trick question, and I'm a jerk, so ha!
It's
Talamato was the name of a native chieftain, and his village was in this area. Now, their burial ground is right here.
Oh.
So it is this older native burial ground that many paranormal experts have cited to us as a potential source for the high level of activity that we get here. So we have things like shadow shifting, rapid temperature changes, unexplainable lights, and of course apparitions, which is kind of, it's seen around that tree and even moving through the branches, photo and even video. It's a little 5-year-old boy, and we even have theory as to who it might be. There we go. So again, if you watch my laser, wind, right there, there is a tiny white headstone that reads James P. and tells us that little James was 5 years old when he died.
That's the one we saw.
So,
When we walked past.
Oh, no, this is the different cemetery.
they say that children are more likely to see it than adults, but I always ask every group, does anybody see a little boy over there?
No,
No.
nobody's.
Sorry, folks, no ghosts are on the payroll. We're not a haunted house. We're not going to fake paranormal activity.
Yeah.
We do have people see things out here, but who would be brave enough to play with him if you could see him and he asked? Nobody.
Nobody.
That is a first. Okay. Got a maybe over there, I think. But, or a why not? Ghosts were people too.
Meh.
So, bravery is the subject, though, of my favorite story about this place. You see, more than 100 years ago, a couple of boys who were, well, they were a little bit older than James, and you'll have to, they would have to excuse me. You see, they weren't boys anymore. They were young men. They had finally matured. And they were more than happy to tell all of their friends how mature they were. And being mature young adults and not frightened little boys, they knew that silly things like stories about haunted cemeteries that were spinning even then couldn't possibly be true. So one dark night, they marched right through those gates, pitched their tent in the middle of the cemetery, and confidently laid down to go to sleep. Because, being mature young men, they knew that nothing would bother them. So it's not too long before they start hearing strange noises, right? And being mature, reasonable young men, they decide that this must be their friends, their less mature friends, who have come along to frighten them.
Okay.
I would have scared the daylights out of my friends if they were crazy enough to try this stunt. So, hey, makes sense to me. They poke their head out of their tent and say, look, guys, you got to grow up, mature, take life seriously like we do. They didn't see their friends. What they saw was a woman, a glowing woman, floating about 3 feet off the ground, in a long white dress with hair going past her shoulders, past her back, past her feet. It would have dragged the ground if, again, she had been standing on it. But the wildest part of the entire apparition was when they tried to look at her face, all they could see was a blank void of nothingness.
Nice.
Now, I'm very proud of them. See, they did the mature thing. Ran screaming right out of that gate, found the very first adult that would listen to them, and started telling their story over and over and over again. In fact, they never stopped. Eventually, an elderly gentleman came forward to them and said, boys, not only do I believe you, but I know who you saw. Many years prior to this, a young lady had passed away due to heart weakness 1 week before her wedding. So, out of respect for the ceremony, the family had her buried in her wedding gown and veil.
Gotcha.
The long hair, the inability to see a face, all makes sense in the context of the wedding gown. The ghost bride, as we call her, is often seen towards that far front quadrant, like if Cordova Street's the front of the cemetery. I had a group catch a photo of a mist form that looked like a lady in a veil in January. I don't know why she's here. You'd have to ask her. What I do know is that those two boys never changed their story, not one word. And I also know that they vowed to never set foot in the Talamato again. and we're as done with this place as they were. So let's say we go explore a little bit of haunted heating in the old drugstore, shall we?
Sure. Haunted heating. Oh. Yes. Looks like the old drugstore. Oh, cool. So excited.
So this building is original. It is restored, not replaced. It is not relocated. It is on the original spot.
Wow.
All of the bottles are originals as well. When the cast member that closes this place up at night does so, they are typically alone, and they hear things mostly. They do see shadow figures. We have people on tours see shadow figures sometimes. They hear voices of other cast members that aren't even on the schedule. Heavy footsteps overhead right here is another pretty common one. And once in a while when they're in here alone, they'll see a bottle rock on the shelves. That being said, some of those bottles, if you step heavy enough, will move on their own. So if you see it in here tonight, probably nothing paranormal with that, but if, no one's over there and it's doing it all on its lonesome, then that's a little bit different now. The whole point, folks, is that this building is restless now. But it ain't here. Or, if you prefer, most of the medicines on these shelves were largely concoctions of, this one right here is seriously called Wahoo. Largely concoctions of water, grain alcohol, and opium, folks. Cures whatever ails you, right? Or
Right.
your ability
You
to
don't.
care about it.
Yeah.
The history that we keep on these shelves and in these walls really, though, might pale in comparison to what it is right beneath us as we speak. See, I mentioned that native burial ground earlier. It's a lot bigger than the Colorado. It was widely believed, even when this place was first built, to extend beneath this very property. So, yeah, it's like, hey, you want to build a drugstore here? There's probably an Indian burial ground here. Oh, yeah, that'll be fine. Said no one ever. Except these guys. It is widely held enough of a belief, that we will once in a while have a local or two pop in just to make sure that this totem is still here. This is a replacement for the native carved wooden original that the elements claim, because it was kept outside. But we're not going to be moving this thing anytime soon. There were wild stories about this place when it first opened up. Bottles moving around on the shelves, bottles flying off of the shelves, up to and including my personal favorite. Sometimes the glass globes around the gas lights that lit the place would spontaneously explode and permanently scar the ceiling overhead like you can see right there. Now, they didn't just use this place for retail either. They did embalmings here too. Imagine walking into that CVS. Yeah. So if things got kind of weird and scary, maybe a new guy knocked over a jar of this embalming fluid that was brand new at the time, and maybe you ended up with some spots on the floor that are permanently shinier than the rest, no matter how many hurricanes it wrecked it. I mean, we've had 2 hurricanes in the past 2 years. These are the same boards, folks, and you've still got these shiny spots here and there. I mean, strong stuff, that. Really, everything we know about how they dealt with dying, bodies, funerals, and whatnot comes to us out of handwritten accounting, obviously, from the day. But what might surprise a few people in the audience is that a lot of those terms and practices are still alive and well today. For example, did y'all know that it used to not be terribly uncommon to be buried alive?
Yes.
See, they didn't have our sophisticated definition of death. If you look dead, they stuck you in the dirt before you stank. 2-3 days tops, because, embalming was brand new. Most people didn't do it. Now, that's not very long. You might well get sick, fall into a coma, and come to in very cramped quarters, total darkness and absolute silence.
Buried alive.
There were records of exhumations from the day, where the bodies were dug up with all of the fingertips worn down to the bones, and the fingernails lodged inside along the scratches and inside the coffin lid. Fears were very, very real. Now, these fears reached their peak in the 17th and 18th centuries. How would I know that? Easy. I would know it by the large number of patents filed for a device generically referred to as a safety coffin. Ladies and gentlemen,
There you go.
The Tabager Safety Coffin is the answer to all of your buried alive fears. If you observe the company's beautifully illustrated diagram, you can see our happy customer resting peacefully, hopefully deceased, down below. Now, ladies and gentlemen, from the surface through the soil and into the casket, we run an ingenious tube. And atop this ingenious tube, we affix a small bell. To this bell, we tie a string which runs through aforementioned ingenious tube and is then attached to multiple points on our, again, hopefully deceased customer's body. So, ladies and gentlemen, should the worst occur, should you be buried alive, should somebody put you 6 feet under before it's all over, fear not. For as you begin to make your small stirrings from your unnaturally deep slumber, that will pull that string. And that string, ladies and gentlemen, will pull that bell. And that bell will be heard by the hired hand that has been placed in that cemetery solely for each and every one of your safeties. And that hired hand was said to be working
The graveyard shift.
Graveyard shift, yeah. Okay. That's crap. Okay. Didn't homework. That's, no. I applaud knowledge and research. So, let's say that I, in fact, own one of these contraptions and I am buried alive. They hear the bell. They dig me up. Oh, sweet air. I am free, but I am not just free. I am also saved by the bell. Okay. So let's say I'm walking around downtown and I'm minding my own business and I come across somebody that looks just like so-and-so. Died and was buried a week ago. Then I have seen... Everybody always goes for that. No, we're sticking with the bell thing here. I've seen a dead ringer.
Dead ringer, yeah.
See, that's the one that the group missed. I'm like, oh, I walked right into that. Okay, so these are terrible puns. Please don't blame me. They're in the script. But they are good history. This is where all those terms came from, is this goofy safety cough contraption. Turns out it's a lot easier to check somebody's pulse. Who would have thunk, right? But what I can tell you is that none of the people in the hallway behind me would have ever benefited from that, or from pulse checks, or from embalming or anything, because they're all made out of wax. Let me be clear, nobody in this hallway comes to life, jumps out at you, shouts boo, any of that nonsense. There's reports of shadows moving and people hearing footsteps. But I can guarantee you're going to hear footsteps. Means y'all are going to follow me to the chamber of horrors.
Nice. I like it. It's dark. It's like early Halloween horror nights. There we go. You got the flash on? You got the flashy camera. Yep, exactly. I need you to do that for me. Little light, a little light, please.
Here we are.
We're coming. Ah, chamber of...
All the way in.
Nice.
Now,
Woo.
when I say ghosts and gravestones, let's face it, this is what we're all thinking about, right?
Right.
Now, as much as I love movie monsters, and oh boy do I love me some movie monsters, they're not history, and we do history here. So the movie monsters are out. Hangings. You got a hanging right there. Hangings are history. Let's keep moving in, folks. Move all the way in. Hangings are history.
The
Hangings are
Mummy,
boring.
House of Wax.
Especially when you've got pirates.
Arg.
Who likes pirates?
Yeah.
They embarrass the Spaniards time and time again. Until their luck ran out. Andrew Ranson's luck ran out. Come on all the way in, folks. We gotta get everybody out of that hallway, please. All the way in. I don't bite, I swear. Not hard. But, Andrew Ranson's luck ran out just north of us and across the bay, and what's now called the Lano Beach. Now, see the rest of his crew? They were sentenced to hard labor building the Castillos of Marcos. Why didn't? See, Andrew was, he was going to be our little message to the pirate world, right? We hated them. So he was sentenced to die, but not by hanging, because hanging is quick and clean. No, we had something special for Andrew. Anyone familiar with a garrote?
Mm-hmm.
Who hurt you? Anyway, so we had something special. See, we wanted him to suffer as much and as long and as visibly as possible. We wanted to show. The way this device would work is I have a better idea. Do we have a volunteer? Thank you, sir, for your enthusiasm. I appreciate it. I see you looking down away from me and folding your hands in resignation. It's rare, folks, we find somebody so many people volunteer for anything. This way,
All
this
right.
way, sir. Please back up against the post if you don't mind. Ah, a perfect fit.
You have been found guilty of the crime of piracy.
Oh,
I have been sentenced to death by garrote. Now I have already pulled the rope to the post behind this pirate, and now I will bring it around the pirate's scrawny little neck. I shall pull it back to the post behind this pirate. I'm going to tie it off with a baton. I'm going to slowly twist and turn this baton. This rope is going to slowly tighten around your neck. You are going to die, Mr. Ranson! By suffocation!
Ooh.
You're only doing that because he told you to do it. Or perhaps a little bleeding.
Ah.
Or my personal favorite, decapitation.
Whee!
And afterwards, if the governor's pleased with the results, all of you will be invited to a celebration of his death with tea and cookies.
Oh.
For everyone!
No one is happier than the governor to see this pirate get his due. The townsfolk were festive. The folks were actually placing bets as to how many turns it would take to do the thieving pirate in. Smart money's on 6 or 7 votes. That's what the soldiers are betting. You know, they've seen these before. Place your bets. No?
Wow.
Sports. Anyway, with the very first turn of that rope, it was
Sir, the first turn of the rope. More hatred in that voice, sir. Just do it!
with the first turn of the rope.
Okay, that actually wasn't bad, but it wasn't dramatic enough. Like the first turn of the rope. See how that looked dramatic like?
Yeah.
Yeah, I see. With the first turn of the rope.
No.
Oh my god, turn the rope.
Me! The first turn of the rope! Go big or go home.
Right.
Yes.
With the first turn of the rope.
I think we could start on that one. That was pretty good.
Yeah.
After you.
With the first turn of the rope, the coarse braided fibers bit into the pirate's neck.
Look like you're in pain or something, right?
And
You're
yet
dying
the
up there.
pirate remains eerily calm. Huh. The second turn of the rope, somebody in the crowd said, "He's holding something!" Somebody else said, "It looks like he has Catholic rosary beads." But that's nonsense. What would an English pirate be doing holding Catholic rosary beads? The third turn of the rope, the pirate began to show some difficulty breathing. A little louder. Like a fish out of water. Never mind, we'll take it. With the fourth turn of the rope, ooh, the rope just tore the pirate's skin. Look, a trickle of blood. The fifth turn of the rope, the pirate's face turned purple. His tongue stuck out. Boom, put that back in. Don't do that again. That's sick. With this turn of the rope and the rope. The rope.
Broke.
Uh-oh. Your rope went limp.
And the pirate breathed in a huge gasp of air. And as the time stood still, the crowd as one gasped. Really? The massive crowd as one gasped. And they stood absolutely still as a Catholic priest ran to Andrew's side. A Catholic priest ran to Andrew's side.
Now you want me here, okay.
And the priest declared for all to hear.
We have seen a miracle! This man is spared!
Right. And he led Ransom to safety in the church, where he cried, "Sanctuary!" And everybody gave his pyre a round of applause. Our governor! The governor expected a proper execution of that man. But now, standing in the front step of the church, our governor had no influence, arguing his authority over that of the church. So defeated, our governor retreated away. That man right there lived on under the protection of the church for too many years.
Sanctuary!
No!
Oh.
After some time by, he actually dared to bargain with the city for his freedom. He did eventually meet with the governor, and it turned out that Ranson was a master stonemason. He helped us finish the final construction of the Castillo de San Marco. And in return, he granted that pirate his freedom. But in the English raid of 1702, the man returned to his pirate character by committing treason! Shame. The man actually interrogated his own countrymen, the English prisoners, for our Spanish troops. The irony of an English pirate hoping the very people it plagued on. You don't care, do you? You're just here to have fun over the weekend. The man's descendants, his children, and then your children after them. 300 years of the man's descendants, still living in our town, still terrorizing us to this day.
Oh boy.
They shouldn't exist. They do. All because that day in 1684, everybody says a pirate was saved by a miracle. No! Cheap equipment, that's all it was.
Technical difficulties.
Actually, you know what? I don't need a rope to kill Ranson. I can do it again!
Let's give our executioner a round of applause. Here ghost stories in this book, but there are a total of 32 historically accurate ghost stories in there, all about St. Augustine, written by a local author.
Oh, that's awesome.
Complete with unaltered photographic illustration. If the rest of y'all would like one of these, and you don't want to deal with him, speak with Deb. She has a supply of them available for only $5 a piece.
Nice.
Speaking of Deb, the Trolley of the Doom awaits us, ladies and gentlemen.
All right.
The execution.
Yay!
You know, I'm glad. I kind of feel like a real weakness of our modern era is that we don't have a lot of good public events where you can take your whole family, be with your neighbors, and everybody participate in government together, right?
Right.
Yes.
Yeah. I got a few people. Bring them back, right?
Yes.
Yeah. There we go. Yeah. And wait a minute. What? Oh no. That bust is of Bishop Augustine Verreau. Bishop Verreau was St. Augustine's very first bishop, and he was obviously enormously important to our community here, but was also extremely important to people all over Florida. Why? Well, Bishop Verreau actually brought modern education and that system of schools to Florida, among the myriad other good deeds he did. So, it was a great tragedy, not just for our community, but for people from all over Florida, when in 1876, our dear bishop passed away. Being so loved, people wanted to come from all over Florida to pay their respects. How did we travel in 1876, folks?
Horse and buggy.
Horse and buggy. Yeah. Slow is kind of the operative term, right? Mm-hmm. Oh, little detail I forgot to mention. Our dear bishop passed away in the month of June.
Oh,
What's
summer.
the weather like in June?
Hot and humid and gross.
Gross. I like that word. Good word. Now, just imagine the look on the funeral director's face when the church representative said, hey, we have some important people coming from out of town. They need time to travel. Do us a favor and hold out for 2 weeks. This was before embalming. They tried everything. They even put him on a bed of ice and buried him under Spanish moss, trying to create like a proto-refrigerator effect.
Yeah.
It worked until all the ice melted and we just had a soggy bishop and a lot of holy water. If you look to your right through those gates, you'll see that bust silhouetted against the mausoleum that was also his. Now, eventually, they came up with an ingenious solution. They used the bottom portion of a metal coffin, placed a rubber gasket on its top lid, and then clamped down a pane of glass for a lid. So you could see in, but smells couldn't come out. Perfect. The day of the funeral arrives. The church is packed to the rafters with people. And you have to understand, everyone would have been seated according to social status. So it would have been people in the first few rows then who would have heard probably, the first few rows here that would have been the first to notice this, it was this kind of a weird sounding thing. It was very distracting. This hissing, popping kind of, it's almost like it's coming from the casket, if you can imagine such a thing. So this hissing and popping. Tell you what, right side of the trolley, hiss for me. Yeah, keep it going, keep it going, keep it going. Now left side, make some popping sounds. So the hissing gets louder. Yeah, just like that. And then the popping gets louder. And then boom! The bishop explodes, flying upwards out of the casket, launching pieces all over the first several rows of mourners. The entire church was terrified, and everybody screamed. Scream for me! What did you just do with your mouths? You open your mouth while it's raining pieces of the bishop. The church sought volunteers to help with the cleanup. So many hours later, after the people they had to pay finished, they gathered as much of the bishop as they could and cleaned up as best they could. He had a dignified burial, but was placed into a new casket, all metal, welded shut, covered in concrete. No escaping this time. So, okay. You might not believe this one, and I totally understand the story is pretty hard to swallow. But keep in mind that when we decompose, it releases gases, the built pressure inside that casket, and the glass couldn't take it. Do also not feel so bad because the very church that buried him didn't believe it either. So 100 years later, in the 1970s, they dug him up. What do you suppose they found in that casket when they opened it, folks?
Pieces.
Yeah, bits and pieces of bishop.
Right.
Still pink, fleshy, and moist as the day he was buried, though.
Whoa.
And now, after being reinterred in his native Spain, our dear Bishop Burrow rests in pieces. That one's pretty bad. A little bit of bonus content. Plaza, as in the plaza where Andrew Ranson was very nearly executed. And then we have the church that's over there. But in 1684, it would have been right here. And at the far end of the plaza, we have the governor's house, which is the same governor's house that the governor would have retreated to after losing his argument with the priest. So, there you go. The setting for Andrew Ranson. And still, I just can't quite get the taste of Bishop Burrow out of my mouth. I know. Who's eating at Harry's Seafood Bar and Grill, huh? Yeah. So, it's and for those of you that don't know, it'll be coming up on our left. It'll be the dark red building, 47th Avenue of Menendez. So once we get through these lights, there's the white building, that's the Legion. Then the next building is Harry's. Now, again, like many things in town, not always a seafood place. All the way back in 1763, this place was the childhood home of then 10-year-old Catalina de Porras. Catalina loved her house. She loved it so much that in October of that year, she refused to understand why she had to leave it. The British Army was seizing St. Augustine, the Spanish while fleeing to Cuba, if you're curious. So, when she finally loses the argument, she vows to friends and family and anyone that will hear her to return and reclaim her family's home one day. Kids, right? A little bit this way. You see, 1784 rolls around. Actually, anybody know what happened between 1763 and 1784? Kind of a big deal.
American Revolution.
Boom! American Revolution. Here it is. Lovely lights over the courtyard. A little bit of music from the folks behind us. So, yeah, same building. So, 1784 rolls around. The U.S., as a thanks to Spain for their aid in our revolution, says, "Hey guys, thanks so much. Have a state," and gives them Florida. Well, Catalina sees her chance. So she grabs her then husband and family, stuffs them all onto a sailing ship in Cuba, and brings them all the way up here just to get her house back. I can see her basically pretty much jump over the side of the boat and run straight up to the door of her beloved home, only to find another family living there. Well, that's not how she was going to let that end, right? Not after all of that work. So she marched right on up to the governor's house. Excuse me. Hi. My name's Catalina. My father actually built that house right over there. Yeah. You know, I was born in that house. I grew up and was raised in that house, and that house, sir, is mine. Throw those people out and give it to me. Okay, well, those people hadn't done anything wrong, so the governor told her no. Didn't slow her down one bit. Came back the very next day, petitioned for her house back again. So, she petitioned for her house back, it turns out, every single day. For 5 years, folks. Yeah, eventually the governor said, "Look, just take it and leave me alone." Now, she moved in and quickly began restoring it to the glory of her childhood memories, but fate was cruel. 6 short years later, she passed away. Y'all think a little detail like death is going to keep a lady that stubborn from enjoying a house she's worked so hard to get? The staff at Harry's have wild stories. You'll see a lady in 18th century clothing out of the corner of their eye, going down a hallway or in an empty room. Candles have been known to relight themselves. The fireplaces have been known to start themselves with nobody around. And the wildest stories all come out of the 2nd story bathroom. People have gone in there and almost run out saying that they felt like they were being watched, or it was creepy and they'd never go in there again. A mix of things. Some people have known Catalina's story and gone up there and taken a photo of themselves in the mirror, only to see a picture of a lady in a black dress standing behind them in the photo.
That's fun.
Now, the wildest story. One patron was obviously unhappy with something because they were having an expletive-laden conversation on a cell phone. And while Catalina was not happy with their language, they came running out of this bathroom, found the manager, and said, "Something in that restroom slapped me in the face."
Oh.
They had the handprint to prove it, ladies and gentlemen. Gentlemen, if you would like to explore this for yourselves, please note this all occurs in the ladies' upstairs restroom, so I can guarantee you won't get slapped one way or the other. Also, possibly with a subpoena, so seriously guys, none of that, ladies only. Yeah, so, mystery is always on the menu at Harry's, as it were. But I'm going to pull a mystery off of your plate right now. We are finally on our way to the most haunted building in St. Augustine, the old jail. Now, we've had a huge number of investigators out here. We've had Taps, the guys from the Ghost Hunters show, if you remember that one way back when. I think that's been about 12 years now since they've been out here. We've had paranormal seekers. We've had so many different investigators out here, and they will all tell you in their own way the place is haunted. What I would tell you is that this place is not haunted by angels. I mean, hey, you know, okay, so this is obvious, but I have groups that people are literally like, I want something to touch me in the jail. And I'm thinking, you're freaking insane.
It's a jail.
Yeah, it's like, go to the lighthouse. The lighthouse is haunted by little girls that like to play on a swing set. Get touched by that. You know, that. So these were obviously criminals to begin with, for the most part. I'm sure some were innocent. Whatever. But the conditions these people had to endure were horrifying, would have driven anybody insane. You're talking 12 to 16 hours of brutal physical labor every day of the week, 7 days a week, all weather conditions, with a 70-pound weight around your ankle. You're talking about sanitation conditions that were horrifying. You and the 7 other gentlemen that shared your 4-person cell all had the same toilet bucket, because no plumbing. And if you filled it up early, it wasn't exactly the guard's problem now, was it? Your beds were stuffed with Spanish moss, so they were infested with chiggers. It was an open-air jail, so all vermin, anything outside came right on in. Roaches, lice, mice.
Around here, a few things that we've seen recently. A few of my friends that drive for us have seen what we call the White Lady. It is a apparition of a white person that's known to run around here. It's associated with a lady who would often beg to sleep in a cell on a cold night. So we'll see her in cold snaps. One night she didn't show up, and Sheriff Perry at the time sent out feelers trying to figure out what had happened to her. And constant renovation going on here, so the fencing has changed. This way. We've had one of my coworkers saw the apparition of an infant in the jail, which is horrifyingly unnerving to me. I have a 3-year-old, and to his credit, he did his next tour. I would have probably quit. Look. So the company that built this also built Alcatraz. Of the things that Alcatraz is famous for, among them, it's famous also for being built according to occult principles. Why just physically contain? So they started experimenting with that right here. It works. This building was literally designed to contain anger, hatred, and rage, and now we are going inside. Please stick together. Take pictures, do all of that, but please stick together, ladies and gentlemen. This way. Sweat, that seeps into. Do feel free to look into the cells. Please don't walk in them. They have iron bunks off of the walls. There are mannequins there. Don't panic. That door is solitary confinement, and I will not be getting any closer to it than I am right now. Move on in, folks. Please move in deep. Get everybody in here. So, welcome to maximum security. If you look on that wall right there, you see a photo of a gentleman of the platform. You got a guy holding flowers in the middle of the platform. I am going to tell you his story as soon as I come back. I have to go close the front door. take photos, but whatever you do not be filmed. When I come back, I will tell you his story.
Good. Now we took care of him. We can be alone. Hi y'all, name's Charlie. Polite is good, but I said my name is Charlie.
Hi, Charlie.
Bad. I don't know why you come in here in the middle of the night unless somebody drag you. But now that we're taking care of that guy, I think I might just get my revenge. Just kidding, y'all. Just kidding. See, every time them motor mouth Peter Pan talking history folks come in here, they skip the finest parts about this place. But tonight, on behalf of me and my boon companions, I'm going to tell you about all 8 of our hangings, so you get to know us personally. Starting with this madman on the wall. See, you notice the Kodiak picture? The man in the middle holding the flowers. This is Sin Jackson himself, right before he swung. Sin in the middle with the flowers. But this, that is the sheriff, Joseph Perry, another madman. He lived in here with us. His daughter, 2 daughters, his wife, lived 10 feet from our cells. And he was so angry when somebody snapped a Kodiak right in the middle of his execution. Not many people thought the Sin deserved the flowers or the picture after what he'd done to his wife. It was having an argument. It turned into a wicked fight. No one knows who struck first, but we know Sim struck last. He shot her up real quick. Dark straight edge and went right at Paul's throat, hacking away until it got stuck in her collarbone. Broke off there. The neighbors came running in because they heard the scream and they saw Sim picking up her body, but her head was just dangling by a thread. And it was a bloody mess. His final wish on the day of his execution was to speechify to the crowd. Must have been nearly 500 people there that day. And he just kept right on carrying on. He told everyone there that he would see them all in heaven. I don't think he made that. You? The next part's harder to believe. See the man not looking at the camera? These is brain doctors. They come down from the north. It was a little sick, but they wanted to perform an experiment during the hanging. They wanted Sim to wiggle his fingers for as long as possible after he dropped. So, down he comes, and he starts twiggling. How long you figure he keeps that up? They wanted to see how long it took before he lost his conscious mind.
3 days.
11 minutes he kept on up. Took him all of 30 before he gave up living and they declared him dead. Imagine how that feels. Hanging there, your body's slowly dying, you're fighting for every last breath, but you gotta remember, wiggle your fingers. Now, in case you've never been hanged before, I'm thinking you haven't. Let me explain to you what it's like. First, they make you build your own death trap itself. Then, after you're done building it, you gotta gape at the dang gallows because it's sitting right outside your window for a month until your number comes up. On that day, they bind your hands together real tight. They're afraid you're gonna run or do something wild. Make sure you're gonna drop. They have guns pointed at you from every direction. If you're lucky, you will think of something grandiose to say in your final words. Some people say nothing at all, like Steve Johnson. He just told his best friend, "Take my boots to my wife. Have her bury him, because she can't afford to bury my body." And Boots didn't make it. Guess he didn't have the heart to tell her what his wife really thought of old Steve. Not much. Then Boots is still upstairs. What are you looking looking at my feet. I ain't got them on. Nothing to say. Come on, I'll show them to you. Don't dilly-dally down here. If the haunts don't get you, the rats most surely will. All right. Watch yourself on these steps. They're really narrow. Use the handrails, otherwise you'll wind up in one of my stories. Said their bedrooms were 10 feet. That's the door to their bedroom. And all the cells. They are 2 steps down. Please be careful. 2 steps down, head all the way in. All the way inside. 2 steps down. All the way in, please. Somebody's got to be first. Head all the way in, please. All the way in. Watch your step. You can sit at the big table. Nothing's going to bother you much. Watch your step. Head all the way in. 2 steps down. 2 steps in. Watch your step. Head all the way in, please. They're all open cells. Do not go into the open. All the way in. All the way in.
Whoops.
All the way inside. All the way Now, Steve knew that he was guilty and the state was justified in what they did. That's why his wife didn't want to have nothing to do with him. Why he had nothing to say on the day of his execution. But the 2 men that swung with him, they had a lot to say. Their names were Eugene Baxter and Tom Wyatt. It was a triple hanging. 31st of May, 1912. The last hanging this town ever saw. I guess that after 3 bodies dropped together at the same time, the town lost its stomach for hangings. Those 2 men, they brutally attacked a local Jacksonville store owner named Isaac Silverstein and his entire family. Left the bodies bruised, broken, and dead. Those 2 murderers requested to be hanged in St. Augustine with old Steve on account that they knew their sentence would be carried out quicker. See, they knew what jail time was like. Those men, they got what they deserved. Even though Tom whining on the way to the gallows saying, well, if I hadn't been friends with Eugene, this never would have happened. Tell you a story about a man who did not want to meet in the dark night, and that is George Hawkins. George is a good, strong name. George, he was the sort of man who would love to move in and out of the shadows, move in the shadows and hide in the light. One night, he finds the perfect prey in the form of a serious offender by the name of Charles Joseph. This man, he just made his living by selling cheap jewelry and trinkets. One night the peddler's out, and then the next night he disappears. That would be George. Moving in and out, hiding, following that poor peddler behind trees and waiting for his moment to jump up onto that wagon. And he cut that peddler from his navel all the way to his neck. Didn't stop there. He reached inside that man and pulled his insides out. Then used the man's own wagon to carry the remains into the woods. Thought he got away with it. Only he didn't take into account horse. Might get hungry. And it wandered back into town with that bloody wagon attached. Painted a gruesome trail from the town back out into the woods where the peddler had been robbed and then gutted. It's a hard way to go even for a peddler. Not everyone in here was guilty though. There was some that didn't deserve what they got. Gotta let me out, Sheriff. I don't belong in here. Just talk to my wife. You'll find out I will never hurt anyone. God name an innocent man. Robert Lee, was innocent. He was friends with a man named James Kirby. He ambushed and murdered a man who was taking a lot of money to pay his workers. Kirby told the authorities, Sheriff Perry, that he and Lee worked together to ambush that poor man that day because Kirby was a coward and he didn't want to die alone. How's that for friends? Changed his mind about 30 days before his execution. He sees that rope start to swing. Kirby told Sheriff Perry that he made up the whole story about he and Lee working together. He didn't do nothing, Sheriff. I'm sorry, but I lied on him. It was too late to save his friend, though. Sheriff just said, the town is expecting a double hanging. I ain't gonna disappoint him on account of a murderer's conscience. Told you that he was a madman. How many hangings was that? How many? Come on! The gallows is the problem.
The gallows. Not the Gallo either. Not the lion.
Doesn't be.
Yeah.
These gallows was used just yesterday. I should know they was for me. But I ain't like none. I ain't like none of them. Yes, I killed man, I did. But it was a justifiable defense. That man, he was saying unsavory things about my wife. And I love my wife. That you should have been there. The things that he was saying about her, look on his face, men like that don't deserve to live. So I shot him right where he stood. Boom. There my hanging comes soon enough. Only I didn't feel real well. If you read the rules right, Harry, you're supposed to postpone your hanging if you ain't in good health. I don't think you're going to be feeling too good today on your execution either, but I was so sick I plumb passed out. Perry, he just wanted a hanging. They're expecting a hanging, and I'm going to give him one. Of course, he had something of a problem. When they couldn't stand me up straight, they dragged me unconscious out to the gallows. That dog, Perry, they lashed me to a board, so I was noose high and ready to drop. Pull that lever, down I come. Only that board was a last-minute decision and a bad one at that. The weight of me and that board broke that rope and I fell into the spectators where you're standing. And now, I was awake. People running to and fro, carrying on, Perry saying, get me a rope, I say. I was laying there moaning because my neck was already broke. I knew by the time they got another noose I would already be dead. I would finally be done living in this place. Also, I thought...
You get out of here, you bastard!
No! Perry!
Leave him alone!
I was supposed to hang me, man!
It's pretty fast for a broken man. I got locked out. I went to go get a key. Okay, look, y'all don't want to be hanging around back here. Bad people hang out back here. You don't want to be hanging out with them. Let's go. Ladies and gentlemen, Tinkerbell will be our getaway driver.
Ready to get out of here? They don't seem very excited.
Don't encourage them to.
Well, I, for one, will be happy to be leaving this place behind tonight. I do have a sad piece of news for everyone. This is going to be my final story for y'all this evening. Aww, I love you too.
Now,
This story.
Do you prompt that? Because you are the only one that actually gets the awe.
They all love me. Or else. This story is about the brave Seminole warrior Osceola, and this one is really for the children. Near the end of the Second Seminole War, Osceola gets word that the U.S. Army wants a peace treaty. Seminoles were beat up, so he agreed, but when he came here to sign it, the whole thing was a ruse. They just threw him into prison at the fort and declared victory. The problem for the Army was Osceola was a celebrity to the American people, and they let their anger be known. Now the Army's in a bind. So the local doctor, Frederick Whedon, approaches the Army and says, look, you messed up. Now you've got to take care of this guy, but he's never going to let any of your Army doctors anywhere near him. I'll gladly take care of him for you, though. The Army agreed and began treating Osceola. Shortly afterward, Osceola got sick. Now, Dr. Whedon redoubled his efforts and began treating him so frequently that the men actually became close friends. But Osceola just kept getting sicker. Odd. Finally, Dr. Whedon tells the Army, look, we've got to move him. There's doctors up in South Carolina that have experience treating this kind of thing. And don't worry, I'll travel with him so that he'll be cared for the whole way. Strangely enough, before he could be examined by another doctor, Osceola passed away. How odd. Now, the real oddities begin at the funeral. The day before, Doc Whedon throws everybody out of the room. I need a moment alone with the deceased. Wasn't odd, the men were friends, and they did make death masks in those days. But when everyone was out of their room, he took out his best saw and cut the head completely off of the body, left it where it lay in the casket, tied a ceremonial scarf over that cut so that no one could tell. Later on, the next day at the graveside, he makes sure that he's the last person to look into the casket to pay respects to the great chieftain. And while no one's watching, he pops the head into his medical bag and shuts the casket with no one being the wiser. That head ends up getting embalmed and finds its way into a jar on the desk of his medical practice right here in St. Augustine. Now, most folks around town knew well enough to not ask too many questions, or at least look the other way. But there were stories. They say he even used the thing to discipline his children. When his kids would misbehave, he would send them to bed, follow them into the room, place the jar on the nightstand next to them, and then lock the door when he left. Wow. Who would have behaved? Me, right here. I was behaved. He must have wanted some well-behaved grandchildren too, because on the eve of his eldest daughter's wedding, he offered it to the happy couple as a wedding present. They gave it to a friend in New York State who stuffed it into a museum that burned down in the fire a few years later. That all begs the question of why. Why would Doc Whedon do all this? We're not sure. Revenge is a possibility. Do consider this, though. Many natives believe that if you do not have all pieces of you, when you leave this life, you must gather them together before you can go to the next. Maybe he was trying to keep his old buddy around, but that head perished in a fire. Some people say that on a moonless night, you can still see the headless specter of Osceola wandering in search of the last piece that it will never find. And that, ladies and gentlemen, is the end. Thanks so much for joining us on Ghosts and Gravestones. Look, folks, if you're ever in Key West, Savannah, Georgia, in Boston, or all the way over in sunny San Diego, California, G&G is there, and we would love to show you all the local haunts. My name is Brian, your driver was Deb, and this is Tinkerbell. Your executioner was Eric, and your Trolley Powell was Rob. I'm telling you this because we love your feedback. In the back of your ticket is a postage prepaid comment card that you can drop in the mailbox, or you can pop them right in our weird little tip jar that looks like a gallows here. Also, I believe Tinkerbell does have a supply of those books for only... She has 2 books remaining for only $5 a piece. Gather all personal belongings, watch your head, watch your